Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mob Stories with James Proctor. I'm here with a special guest. It's Lee Cole. So, how are you doing, Lee?
Well, you listen, I was glad that you asked me to come on for this one because this is some
Yeah,
fascinating stuff.
yeah.
And I just want to give you my opinion,
hmm
and then you can give your opinion. And I appreciate you asking me to come on for this.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating. And what we're talking about is Jimmy Calandra did a show yesterday where he talked about a variety of things, but mostly about Mikey Scars and Joey Merlino.
He said stuff that I agreed with and stuff I didn't, but I'm going to be honest with you, James.
hmm
I thought that, see, if Jimmy Calandra can concentrate on working like this,
hmm
he would be better off than concentrating on like threatening to go to people's houses
Right.
or hanging out with people that he shouldn't be hanging out with. He has to remember, do your own stuff and you grow, you accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought actually, regardless if you agree with Jimmy or not, I thought that the way that he presented the information was good. I thought that he wasn't, he wasn't making some of the mistakes that he had, getting angry, going after people, all that. I mean, he made his point, and regardless if you agree or not, at least it was presented, I thought, in a good way.
Yes, and this. Okay, people that don't know Jimmy, and most people on here do, explain who Jimmy is. I can't hear you. Okay, so James, explain to us exactly who Jimmy, for people that don't know, most people on here know Jimmy Calandra, but
Yeah.
explain who Jimmy Calandra is before we get into the Mikey Scar stuff and go over what he said.
Yeah, so he's been around on YouTube for a while, but he back in the '90s he was involved with the Bath Avenue crew, and so they were a farm team of the Bonanno crime family, and so Jimmy himself was one of like five or six guys that were part of this group, but in the end he ended up getting into um, a situation with Tommy Reynolds and where they went and Tommy killed a woman.
Tommy and him went to the door. They murdered a woman.
Yep.
Okay. Jimmy would like to say that it was Tommy Reynolds' fault, but you both went to the door. That was always my philosophy on that.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And explain who this guy is right here.
Yeah. So that's the
Paulie Galino.
Yeah, Paulie Galino, Paulie G, and so he was the leader of the group, and he ended up getting killed actually by his own people. So that was Tommy Reynolds was involved with that, and one of the other Bath Avenue,
Joey Calco, I believe.
Yeah, Calco, Joey right. Calco. Yep.
Okay. So we just wanted to lay that out there. So now what we're going to do now is we're going to present to you exactly what Jimmy said, and then you guys are going to we're going to give our opinions.
Yep.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I disagree with a lot of things Jimmy says. Jimmy and I have been going at it. Jimmy said some awful things, and we both did it back and forth for a long time.
Yeah.
It was my first interview ever here.
Mm-hmm.
And it started my channel off. And then when we had our battle, all those people I gained from him, I lost. So had to start all over again.
Yeah.
But that's just part of this. And this is one of the reasons I'm glad not to be in the mob genre all the time. But when this stuff comes up, I love to discuss it.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy made some very good points here. And then he made some very bad points. So we're going to go over this. Okay. And here we go. I'll stop this when I think we should stop it. Or you tell me when to stop it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Guy like Mikey Scars. Okay. This guy comes on and, he wants to knock Sammy. And don't get me wrong, look, I'm not defending Sammy. I'm not really a big Sammy fan. I'm really not. I visited Sammy. I had some fun with him. I stayed at his house for 5 days. The guy really is a funny guy. I know he's a stone cold killer. I know he cooperated. He was the underboss. But Mikey Scars wants to knock Sammy. Mikey Scars, you put away over 80 guys.
put things in.
Okay, so let's stop with that, James.
Yep.
He put away 80 guys. Yeah, there's two things that Jimmy said that I'd like to go over with you.
Yeah.
First, let's see what you say here.
Context. I'm a historian and a researcher. I was never involved in any criminal activity. As a historian, I like to hear what Michael DeLeonardo has to say because he's one of the few people alive that's willing to discuss the inner workings of the American mafia during the 1980s and 90s, and especially with his access to infamous mobsters such as John Gotti and Sammy Gravano. As somebody that was never in that life, I'll never have the personal stories or access that Michael has. Sammy Gravano came out on YouTube around 2020 and started out doing his Our Thing podcast, and I was fascinated by his stories at first. Unfortunately, through time, I discovered that many items that Sammy discussed were embellished or not true. It's important that we have an accurate representation of history. Am I going to say that Michael's 100% correct on everything? Of course not. Through time, people forget details, but Michael has a sharp mind and remembers a lot of what went on. Sammy was obviously a big deal in the life and was John Gotti's underboss. I won't take that away from Sammy, but he wasn't a good person. He continues to go after the families of his victims like Linda Melito and Joy Faraci. He continues to make up stories. Just the past week, he said that Bull 19 was nothing to do with the murders and that it's some sort of code. What the hell? That's one of the worst lies I've ever heard from Sammy. What's sad is that many of his simps will believe it. Mikey Scars has never tried to come across as a hero. He admits to what he was and is. Mikey obviously has bad blood with Sammy Gravano. We can't say that Michael is not unbiased. However, everything that I can check on his story is that he tells the truth. I also appreciate what he says about the history of Cosa Nostra in this country, especially with the New York families. He has a perspective of that life that nobody else has on YouTube. That's just my opinion. Now we hear Jimmy Calandra discuss how Mikey Scars has the balls to talk about Sammy when he's put away 80 guys himself and was only looking for 10 to 15 years in prison.
Okay, so that was very interesting the way you laid that out. But let's remember. Okay, so there is no defending Sammy Gravano. Sammy Gravano is the worst human being on here.
Right.
Okay. This is a guy that tried to pretend that a 16-year-old kid that he murdered, it was the kid, and that's Alan Kaiser. It was his fault.
Right.
We all know that's not the case. Sammy's lying on it.
Yep, he is.
There is no, see, this is where Jimmy Calandra hurts himself. If he wanted to go after, Mikey Scars for putting 80 people away, okay, I can understand that.
Right.
But it's like you said, Mikey Scars tells us that when Sammy says something that's BS, he corrects him. And he has the right to correct him because Sammy Gravano actually was in charge of making him. He led the ceremony.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
You know, so he can never say, I don't know Mikey Scars. Because he tried to say that, didn't he, James?
Yeah, exactly. He tried to say that, and obviously it wasn't true. You know, he made him, along with John Gotti Jr. and others. So, I mean, it just didn't make any sense.
And this come running to Sammy thing, people love running to Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy would kill anybody. If killing was still legal, Sammy would, if tomorrow, if they made killing legal, Sammy would go out and start killing people. That's who Sammy Gravano is, James.
Yeah, and all these people that go out to visit him and see him, that supposedly was around him in the life, he doesn't remember any of them. He doesn't remember. He never dealt with Jimmy or any of the Bath Avenue crew, and back in the day. And same with others that come on and go out and see Sammy. So I just think that
I can never understand that. Why the hell would people want to go out there and see Sammy?
Yeah, it's like you're paying homage to him. You're kissing the ring or something. It's just, to me, kind of bizarre.
James, I went to kiss the ring and got punched in the temple.
Yeah, that's too funny. Yeah,
yeah, but this okay. So this is where Jimmy makes some really good points.
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of wanders into the wrong direction when he's defending Sammy. There is no defending Sammy. Jimmy Calandra, if Sammy had the opportunity and you were sitting there in 5 days and he needed something you would say, he would have went up behind you and taken you out and you would have disappeared. It's like if I got out of that car and went inside to talk to him in his studio, there's a chance that I would have disappeared.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so, and that's the point on it. I mean, the thing is, if you want to go after Michael for, putting away 80 people. And that is true. He is one of the most effective informants ever for the U.S. government. So, yeah, you can criticize him for that. But I think when you start putting Sammy Gravano in that, then you lose credibility with the argument, in my opinion.
Well, and I'll give you another example. Mikey Scars has come out and said that he's lost a lot of sleep in his life. Sammy said that he sleeps like a fucking baby.
Yeah.
So big difference there.
Yeah.
And I'm not defending Mikey Scars. Mikey Scars to me is a rat. He ratted out a lot of people.
Right.
And there's no way turning back on it.
Right.
But the difference between him and Calandra and is that he actually comes out and says it, because you'll see these where people say, well, this is why I ratted. This is why I ratted. I've never heard Mikey Scars say, this is why I ratted. Mikey Scars said, I had my weak moment. I became a fucking rat.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, Jimmy right here, he's with Matty Madonna, and, Jimmy was with Matty Madonna, but he didn't live the life. Jimmy talked about, and we'll let, I just wanted to put that up because I think Jimmy mentions Matty Madonna.
He does, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't even know how you got the balls to even talk about Sammy. Seriously. But Mikey Scars, for example, this guy comes on. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the world. I mean, he should really tell the truth that, he looked at only 10 years on a plea deal. He was looking at 10 years on a plea deal. 10 years, maybe 12 years, let's say the most 15 years, okay? If they offered me 15 years, in all honesty, I would have took the 15 years.
Mikey's never shied away from the truth. He'll admit that he ratted, and he has admitted that he's helped put away 80 or so guys. He's 100% one of the most effective informants ever that the U.S. government is utilizing putting away mob figures. The name of his channel is No Excuses, and one of the best comments he says that when he cooperates, and when anybody cooperates, they turn in their gangster card. You don't have to agree with what Mikey did. He broke a lot of hearts, and he hurt both his family and a reputation for what he did. However, his show is more about the history of Cosa Nostra, and they're not even spending as much time on Sammy Gravano now. Mikey knows about the treachery of the life, but based upon what I know about Michael and his history, he never killed his business partners. He was always looking for ways to make money and was successful in it, and he realized that killing his business partners were bad for business. Not all mobsters are the same as Sammy Gravano. Mikey was no angel. He committed crimes, including being part of the conspiracy of the murder of Fred Weiss. But again, when I listen to Michael DiLeonardo, it's about hearing his perspectives as a made man, a capo regime in the Gambino crime family, and his unique understanding of that life. Jimmy also talks about how he disagrees with Mikey Scars, calling him a victim. I'm not going to speak for Mikey, but my perspective is that all these young kids that were being groomed are victims. They made the choice to be part of the criminal life, but at the same time, they were groomed by these wise guys, dressing nice, having nice cars, good-looking women, etc. It was a lifestyle that a kid on the street could look up to. Who wouldn't want to have a life that's comfortable if you're a kid that's living in poverty? It's just like any other victim. The person is looking to control the other person. Of course, all the guys who were part of the Bath Avenue crew made that choice. They should have walked away, but they were too young to know any better. When we're in our 50s, we have more wisdom and knowledge than when we were teenagers or in our 20s. We realize now that the life was bullshit, but at the time we didn't know that. We only saw the glamour and glitter on the outside. We didn't know that beneath the surface it was rotten to the core. Next, I want to share with you a clip on what Jimmy Calandra had to say about Joey Merlino. Jimmy said that real guys in the life don't go on YouTube. Here you go.
We know all about you, Joey Merlino. You're a brokester. You really never did nothing, okay? That position, as far as acting boss, was handed down to you. And you got balls to call anybody a rat because you're the biggest rat there is. Okay, you're supposed to be a stand-up guy. You're on YouTube. Guys in the underworld do not go on YouTube.
You hear that Jimmy considers Joey Merlino a rat for going on YouTube. My opinion is that if Joey wants to go on YouTube, it's his prerogative. I have no knowledge of Joey Merlino being a brokester, but it's apparent that he's went to over 50,000 subs on his channel, and it's still growing. He has a sizable Patreon channel that's growing as well. Obviously, people are curious about Joey because he was the alleged boss of Philly. My understanding is that Ralph Natal was made boss and Joey Merlino was the underboss. After Ralph goes back to prison, Joey is then made the boss. Is he the boss now? I have no idea. He says that he's not. All I know is that I never hear him say anything that would be considered jamming up anybody. I think his motivation is to make a legitimate income off his brand. Then, if he's no longer the boss, then why does it matter? As long as he's not jamming up anybody or ratting on anybody, I say God bless him. He shows more entertainment and sports than anything else, sprinkled with talk about informants. Personally, I don't consider him a rat for having a podcast. I just notice a lot of people, especially folks that have cooperated, are very negative about Joey being on YouTube. Now we have one more clip I want to play.
Okay, James, that's very interesting what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get this to right.
This is Jimmy talking about Joey Merlino being on Vlad TV.
Okay. Oops. I want to get that pretty
But
picture.
Joe Merlino.
There we go. Okay, so we heard what you said there about Merlino.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do know that he went on Vlad, and there was a lot of questions about that.
Right.
Okay, but to say that he was nothing in the street, are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's just not true. I mean, the guy got, 24, about 24 attempts on his life. He was shot. He lost his best friend. He also in the mob war. He was in the mob war for, 3 years. He was,
every time he stepped outside his doorway,
yeah,
he had to worry about being killed every day by mad killers.
Yeah.
And on top of that, James, wasn't you found something out? There was kind of a false myth made about John Gotti wanting to make what's his name, Stanford.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't you explain that to us, because it's not accurate. So why don't you make it accurate?
Yeah. And so the thing is, when you look at a lot of books out there, get it wrong. They keep on saying that John Gotti was the one that made John Stampa, that he went through New Jersey and he told Scarfo that he wouldn't be boss anymore, and they replaced him with Stampa. But I talked to Mikey Scars about that, and basically John Gotti said, do not have anything to do with Philadelphia. We don't recognize them. And so what ended up happening was that there was a guy named Anthony Piccolo. He's known as Tony Buck. He was the uncle of Scarfo. And so he was put in for like a couple of years and as an acting boss, and he just got tired of it. And so, they knew Scarfo couldn't run the family, but no one wanted Scarfo in there running it from jail. And so what happened was that Piccolo ended up turning it over to John Stampa, and John Stampa made Piccolo the consigliere. And so that's what happened. And so John Gotti wasn't involved in making that decision. In fact, by that time, according to Mikey Scars, the Gambino family would not recognize Philadelphia or anyone in that, and couldn't do business with them.
And has Mikey Scars ever given us a reason that he's lying about this stuff?
No. I mean, we don't have a reason for that. We don't know why. It's just that it was just a lot of bad attention going on, murders, and I think it just got too much for New York. New York just let them fight it out, let them just deal with their own stuff, but we're not going to have anything to do with them.
And here's the reality of this whole thing, James, when you think about it. Yeah. You have Sammy Gravano talking about the Gambino family and making up a lot of fairy tales because he wants to put his cape on and fly around like Superman. Mm-hmm. And then you have his kryptonite, which is Mikey Scars, because Mikey Scars calls him out on a lot of these things.
Yes.
And that we know. Mm-hmm. And then you have Joey telling the story of Philly. Yeah. But he only tells the story of Philly that has to do with him. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't talk about other people.
Yeah.
There's people say, oh, he goes on and he's a rat. I have not seen him do one thing where he can be called a rat. Not one thing.
No. Yeah, and I just don't understand it. It just seems, and we've talked about this, that especially a lot of the people that have cooperated, they are they have so much hatred against Joey Merlino, and they're going to call him a rat. They call him out all the time. It's just kind of strange to me that, why is it someone that never cooperated can't be on YouTube? Why is that a problem? And there's other things that Jimmy says I do agree with, which we'll get in the next segment about the Philly crime family. But, the truth is you can't take away what Joey Merlino was on the street. You may not like how he did stuff, but, the guy was a gangster.
He was, and he's still a gangster.
He's still a gangster
in a different way.
In a different way.
Yeah, he doesn't bow to nobody. He doesn't kiss nobody's ass.
No.
And you can't take that away, James. And that's and people, like, you hear all these snide remarks and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, we know that the man was in a war. We know that
he was.
He was the head of Philadelphia.
He was.
Lots of documentation there.
Yeah.
But also, we know that whole thing with John Stampa and Gotti putting him in power is bullshit.
Yeah.
And people have to understand that Mikey Scars gave that story. You may not want to hear that story.
Yeah.
And just because Sammy says he wanted John Stampa in power doesn't make it true.
Right.
I'll take Mikey Scars over Sammy anytime.
Yep, exactly.
You called Sonny Franzese a rat. Okay? Maybe one day you're gonna run into a Colombo guy or a regular guy that liked Sonny Franzese, someone that did time with him. Maybe they're gonna tap you in the jaw someday. I don't know, but possibility, But you ain't the boss no more. That's 100%. I know you're not in the mob no more, because if you were in the mob, you definitely would not be on YouTube.
Okay, when you hear that, what do you? Well, I guess before you speak, I'm going to just say one thing.
Yep.
Okay, so he's saying that when he gets tapped in the jaw, how do you know? You think Joey's a punk? That someone's going to walk up to him and tap him in the jaw, and he's just not going to do because he's a little guy. Mm-hmm. We know that he's a little guy, but we know he's a tough little guy.
Yeah.
So, it's.
As far as Sonny Francisco's, he was a stand-up guy all the way. The guy did 50-plus years in prison, and he was Cosa Nostra until the day he died, in my opinion. Lee and I discussed what Joey said about Sonny Franzese, and we disagreed with what Joey said about him. I personally don't think there's much of a Bob family left in Philly anyway. The feds and informants have decimated the family, and the last bust about 3 or 4 years back hurt the family tremendously. I'm not any sort of insider within the Philly crime family, but I just don't think he's part of that life anymore. I know that he goes back to his neighborhood and he goes between Ford and Philly. I just don't think New York really cares what Joey Merlino does. This is a new day and age. The mob of the 80s and 90s is no longer around. Between Rico and informants, Italian families leaving for the suburbs, and better socioeconomic conditions, the youth are just not going into that life anymore. The mob will always be around, but it'll never be what it once was. There's no commission anymore, and honestly, each of the families are just trying to survive. I do agree with Jimmy when he said that the mob doesn't rub people out anymore, and if you can bring money into the family, that's all you need to do to get made. That's 100% true. To reiterate, Joey is able to make money off of social media, and he likes being in the public eye. I might not agree with everything he says, but he has the right to be on YouTube like anybody else does. Jimmy criticized Joey Merlino for going on Vlad TV because Vlad interviews informants. He said it was a rap move because DJ Vlad interviews informants, but I just think if you're a brand and you can get your message in front of a potential audience of 6 million people, why not? We heard the interview and nothing was said, in my opinion, that would be considered a rap move. Again, I don't want anybody to think I'm bashing Jimmy. I just think his statements were interesting, and it's similar words I've heard from other content creators. In conclusion, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Is Mikey Scars wrong for bringing up the embellishment and lies of Sammy Gravano because he cooperated? Should we embrace history as it really happened, or should we just go with the narrative of Sammy Gravano? As far as Joey Merlino, do you consider him a rat for being out on YouTube and for doing the interview with DJ Vlad? Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to hear real mob stories with James Proctor. Take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.
Okay, that was very interesting, James. Very interesting. I thought you did a great job there.
Thank you.
And you pretty much said everything that I would say. The one thing that I would make more clear than anything is there is no defending of Sammy Gravano.
No.
It's like the people that defend Sammy Gravano, you're defending a very bad man. The people that sit in the room with Sammy Gravano and as he attacks people on his show and laugh and make these remarks, you guys are dealing with the devil.
Yeah, that'd be like someone that talks about that'd be like defending a certain leader of Germany in the 30s and 40s. I mean, you don't do that because there's certain people that are so evil that you can't defend them,
Yeah, and what should happen here is Jimmy said to himself, this guy dealt drugs with his family.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, you got to give Jimmy credit for some of the things that he said that were very accurate. One, we know that he was accurate when he said that he put 80 men, that Mikey put 80 men away.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, and see, this is where I think Jimmy has his issues. He says some really good stuff and he always mixes it in with stuff that he should leave out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between when we first came on here, James. Jimmy was considered the big guy. He was considered the guy that was growing really fast.
Right.
And then he threw a wrench in the tire, in the spokes. But if Jimmy got on and talked like this, have people like you and I come on and say whether we agree or disagree with him, he would be doing a lot better. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think so. What I liked about it is even if you don't agree with him, I thought that his approach of being able to put together a coherent statement and argument, that part I thought was good, regardless if you agree or not. And so it wasn't about going over to someone's house, doing all the fighting with irrelevant people, and that he got caught up in all that. And so it was nice to see him to get away from that. And so if he does stories like he did yesterday, I think that it'll serve him a lot better.
Okay, and with that, I like to say, please, people, please join Angel Gotti Show, My Father's Daughter, the Patreon. The link will be below this video. And also, James has let me do this stuff. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
And also, James is like, yeah, you do that, Lee. James don't like to do that shit. Mm-hmm. But anyway, my channel is www.wrestlingwiththedevil.com. Mm-hmm. And no, that's my website. I'm sorry. Okay. But you can go over to Dealing with the Devil. That link will be underneath here too. And that's the wrestling show, which is also doing really well, James, right?
Oh, yeah, it's doing well. You just went over 5,000 and you got 4,000 in about 6 weeks. And so
4,000 subs in 6 weeks. Yeah. And it's growing all the time. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought me back here. I said like once a month I'll come over if you want me to. And
yeah, of course.
And this had to do with Sammy. There is no more than anything.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimmy Calandra, whether you like him or not, gets the shit beat out of him on here. Mm-hmm. And he has people attack him, and it's like bah, 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 bah. It doesn't stop.
Right.
But a lot of that's Jimmy's fault. He should have just stick to his show, leave everybody else alone, say and just go do your thing.
Yeah.
And that's what you do, James. That's what I do. We just do our thing. I made the mistake here, James, of not doing my thing, getting involved with all these other people.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to do my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it works out better, I think, in the long run,
Yeah. Okay. And James, I guess it's your show. You close it out, my man.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lee, for being here today. And so just everyone, please put your comments. Give me your thoughts on what we said. What do you think about Jimmy show yesterday? What do you think about Joey and Mikey Scars? Love to have a great discussion about that in the comments below. But everyone, have a great day. Thanks.
Okay.